What's going on, everybody? Tucker Bagley alongside Eliot Shorr-Parks, getting centered on that camera, making
Yes.
sure we have a beautiful view of that drop ceiling behind you from the Eagles press box. Go Birds! Eagles halftime here. Eagles leading the Broncos 10-3 at the half. And Eliot, I think with about 8 minutes to go in the first half, you texted me, "Man, I sure hope something exciting happens because I don't have anything
Yeah,
to
for
talk
real.
about." And I don't really either. I mean, they had that great play to Devontae Smith. AJ Brown obviously drew that PI that set up the touchdown to Dallas Goedert. But other than that, it's been a pretty boring half of football for a team that really the last 2 weeks, both good and bad, have had really exciting halves of football. So far, it's been pretty blah. I don't know what your initial
Yeah.
takeaways are, but there
Well,
isn't a lot to really go off of after 30 minutes.
yeah, I feel like after a week of drama, they could probably use a little blah. They could use a little of not super exciting. But what I will say is actually like I think one of the reasons there's just not a ton where you go. I mean, I feel like every time we've done it this season at halftime, there's been one major thing, whether it is they have -3 yards passing or whatever it is. They've just played really good football, in my opinion. Now the score probably doesn't indicate it as much. Only to be up 7 at halftime. But I thought this was the best half of football, in my opinion, for the passing offense. I know the Rams, they had more yards and more touchdowns. But I thought that was mostly hurry up against a team that was starting to play prevent and then just it was too late, right? But I think this is the most consistently they've moved the ball in terms of how you can envision it looking all year. I think Jalen has been really good on some of the crossing routes to AJ. He's thrown the ball down the field. He has a long one to Devontae. The Dotson play wasn't a completion, but I thought it was a really, really nice throw. And it was super close to a completion. You could debate whether or not he had it, but it was still a really nice throw. It just feels like this is the most in sync, like rhythmic passing offense they've had so far. And look, they needed it, right? After the passing offense has been the topic of conversation this week. AJ's had the ball thrown his way a few times. They love that like Ayo thing in the stadium. The announcers doing it, and I know AJ really likes it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like if you didn't tell me the score, I would feel really, really encouraged about how they played so far. I think the defense has been pretty good too. So overall, I mean, not to bring up the Phillies, but like the Phillies go up 3-0 and you think to yourself, all right, like you feel good then, but then they don't put enough they don't score enough runs, they don't put the Dodgers away, and then they end up blowing it. So like visually, just watching it, I feel like it's been a very good half, but the scoreboard, certainly you wish they would have scored more points.
Yeah, and I think for the passing offense, to me, the most striking thing was just the concerted effort to pass the ball, right? Like they've been
Agreed.
really
Yeah.
50-50 on run pass. And as you can see at the bottom there, like 21 passes called, only 9 runs. Like they really have been pass heavy, which is interesting going against a defense that has the defensive player of the year in the
Yeah.
secondary and Patrick Surtain. And I know one of your keys to the game was attacking Riley Moss on the other side of the field. They have done that. Devontae Smith had that 57-yard catch. They got him flagged for a PI on a drive later in the second quarter. But offensively, I mean, this is a script that we really haven't seen from the offense, except maybe that Steelers game last year where they've come out and said we are going to be pass first against this Broncos defense.
So a couple things off that. One, I thought today was a good example so far of like when the players talk about being takers and being the aggressors, this is what it looks like. And it begins with Jalen. Like it is Jalen going out there and doing it. Now, I'll also say to the coaching staff, like, I haven't been as worked up about the third and long draws that they've been calling, but that long play to Devontae was a 3rd and 12 where they dropped Jalen back and gave him a chance to go make a play. So there's an example of being more aggressive. I thought the play that drew the PI on Patrick Surtain, that was an example of being aggressive. The Dotson throw, that was being aggressive. So I do think they have come out today with this game more of a mentality of let's attack these guys down the field. And to your point about Surtain, he's arguably the best corner in the NFL. I mean, I think you could argue Quinion is playing like the best corner in the NFL right now. But when you take into account resume, I think it's Surtain, and they've not been afraid of him. Like they've not stayed away from him. They are attacking him, and I really like that. Like AJ is one of the best man beater wide receivers in the NFL. He is almost impossible to cover in man coverage, and you've seen that today so far. They are throwing the ball towards him, and it's been productive. Right? It hasn't always been completed, but it's been productive. Now, the running game. So I have one overarching thought on the running game, but I'm curious to see if you would agree with me. So I'm going to ask you first, like, what's like the play or the main takeaway for you from the running game?
The main takeaway, it's been better, but it hasn't been a focal point. I think the pitch to Barkley where he got 17, I don't know if that was his longest run of the year, but it
It
definitely
was,
is
yeah, it
close if it
was.
wasn't. And I don't know. I thought it was interesting. He was slow to get up after his second carry. At one point, him and AJ Dillon both had 2 carries each. Will Shipley has gotten a carry since. It's interesting they're splitting up, to me, the carries the way they are, and they aren't necessarily riding Saquon the way they have all of last year and so far this year.
So my main takeaway, and this is the first time all year I felt this way, I think Saquon looks slow. Like that 17-yard run, I think last year that's a longer run, if not a touchdown. How many times last year did we see Saquon get a full head of steam and not take it all the way to the house or not take to some massive, like some long run? Like he kind of got exactly what any running back would have gotten there. I'd be curious to know what, like, if he got any yards above expected, like not to compare him to Miles Sanders, but I don't know, is Miles Sanders getting 17 yards on that run? I don't know if there's much of a difference. That was the first time all year, training camp, each game, where I have thought to myself, yeah, Saquon looked like not Saquon there. And again, holding him to last year's standard is really tough. Like we'll probably never see a better season from a running back, but I've been pretty consistent through the first 4 weeks that I think the offensive line is why the running game is struggling. That was the first time where I thought to myself, like, like that was such a, like an eye opening. He did not take that one to the
He
house.
looks
And
human,
so,
is that I think the most
yeah, well, he just does
easiest way to put it. Like he last year was a force. The gravity that he had when he was on the field, like defenses keyed in on him, and they still are now. I think he's still the focal point of most opposing defenses. But I think now it's easy to forget he's on the field, right? I think through most of the first half, as him and the other running backs are splitting carries, your eyes aren't immediately drawn to him.
Yeah, and the stat that's been living rent-free in my head is the one Spike shared, which is he's a quarter second slower getting to the line than he was last year. And I know that's not the end of the world. That's not like a massive, but it is something.
Smaller holes too, right? Like he might not be hitting holes as
Yeah, he might not
aggressively
be
because
as
they might not
hesitant.
be
That's a
there.
good point. That's a good point. Wow, I wish I would have told you earlier in the week that was living rent free in my head, because that's a very good counterpoint. I wouldn't have had to think about it all week. So no, that was the first time all year where I thought maybe this is like a Saquon thing too. But that being said, Landon Dickerson out of the game. Before the kind of exciting final 8 minutes, I thought we'd talk about a lot about that. So let's get to that. I'll just say, like, being in the press box, I don't know what they're showing on the broadcast, but man, he like can barely walk on the sideline. He is limping. Now, credit to him, he clearly wants to go back in. He got his ankle taped and was really trying to walk around, but he just looks like physically beat down. And I feel bad for him because he wants to be out there, but I do think it's gotten to a little bit of a point. Joe Giglio asked us this on the pregame show about, like, do they just have to sit him down for his own good? And I think that'd be really tough to do to Landon, but he just every game this year has been unable to really stay on the field. And when your offensive line is constantly changing from what it was during the week, that's a really hard way to get consistent, good offensive line play.
Yeah, and it's tough to take a guy off the field who last year, I think one of the highlights of the playoff run was him gutting out that performance playing center
for sure.
in the NFC Championship game. And now he's reached this point where you're right, maybe it's a short IR stint and he comes back after the bye and he's ready to go down the stretch quickly before we get out of here. Your thoughts in the second half and really the defense. We haven't touched on the defense yet. Denver only 1 for 8 for third down. My biggest takeaway is Bo Nix isn't as good as the other quarterbacks the Eagles have played this year. Like, it's almost refreshing.
Agreed.
Not playing an all-pro caliber quarterback for the first time all year, really, after playing Baker and Stafford and Mahomes and even Prescott week 1. He just looks overmatched against Vic Fangio, and he's made a couple nice throws. But I don't know. Just watching the Broncos offense, I don't have much confidence in them moving the ball.
Yeah, so I feel pretty confident the Eagles will win the game, but it is only a 7-point game. The Broncos defense is really good. I think as long as Jalen takes care of the ball, they'll win. I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't turn it, if they play turnover-free football in the second half and they lose. Because your point, Bo Nix has missed chances. I think Bo Nix will make a mistake in the second half. And I think even on breakdowns, Bo Nix has not consistently taken advantage of them. So my guess is, like we always do, we'll be doing a victory podcast afterwards. And yeah, it's close, but I think they'll win.
Yeah, I think they'll win. I think something exciting happen, and James will get to scream about it. And
there we go. That's all we want. Exactly. Yeah.
So that'll do it for us. Eliot will be back with James immediately after the game to recap everything that happened down at the Linc in the second half. Eagles lead the Broncos